Morning. This joint assembly is convened pursuant to the provisions of JRS 35, which the clerk will now read.
JRS 35, joint resolution providing for the election of an adjutant and inspector general and 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State College Corporation. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the 2 houses meet in joint assembly on Thursday, February 19, 2026 at 10 o'clock and 30 minutes in the forenoon to elect an adjutant and inspector general to serve a 2-year term commencing on March 1, 2026 and expiring on March 1, 2028, and 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation to serve 4-year terms commencing on March 1, 2026 and expiring on March 1, 2030. In case such election shall not be made on that day, the 2 houses shall meet in joint assembly at 10 o'clock and 30 minutes in the forenoon on each succeeding day, Saturdays and Sundays excepted, and proceed in such election until said vacancy is filled.
Pursuant to our Constitution and statutes, we are assembled here today in joint assembly for the election of an adjutant and inspector general and 2 legislative trustees for the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. With respect to the election of all of these officers, if a contest exists, then the voting must be done by written ballot. This mandate is set forth in 2 VSA 12 and in Joint Rule 10A. The chair now calls to the attention of the Joint Assembly the text of Joint Rule 10, which applies to elections held by this assembly. Rule 10A. Whenever a joint assembly is required to elect 1 or more persons to any office, the voting shall be by ballot, except that if there is only 1 candidate for any office, and if there is no objection, the chair may put the question to the joint assembly by voice vote. B, if 2 or more offices are to be filled, each office will be voted upon and decided separately. If 2 or more vacancies for the same office are to be filled, nominations for all vacancies will be received before voting begins for the first vacancy, but each vacancy will be voted upon and decided separately. The Joint Assembly may limit the number and length of nominating and seconding speeches for each candidate. C, election to any office is by majority of the votes cast, exclusive of spoiled and blank ballots. After 2 votes have been taken for any vacancy without an election, all nominees except the 2 having the highest number of votes on the second ballot shall be withdrawn, and voting shall then continue until a candidate is elected. In no event shall the involuntary removal of nominees result in fewer than 2 nominees remaining in the contest. D, the person who first nominated a candidate may withdraw that candidate's name at any time. A withdrawal may be complete or may be limited to 1 or more vacancies. A candidate for any office having more than 1 vacancy who is defeated for the first vacancy shall automatically be a candidate for successive vacancies unless the nomination is voluntarily withdrawn. 3, for purposes of this joint assembly, all nominations for these offices will be received by the chair prior to voting, presented in alphabetical order. And there will be only 1 nominating speech of not more than 3 minutes and not more than 2 seconding speeches of not more than 1 minute each for each nominee. We have 2 sets of elections today. First, to elect an adjutant and inspector general. Second, to elect 2 Vermont State Colleges Corporation trustees. For the election of the adjutant and inspector general and trustees, as there are contests, the elections shall be by ballot. Accordingly, we will need tellers, and the chair now appoints as tellers Senator Collimore of Rutland District as chief teller, Senator Vyhovsky of Chittenden Central District, Senator Plunkett of Bennington District, Representative Byrong, the member from Vergennes, Representative Hango, the member from Berkshire, Representative Karis Duncan, the member from Whitingham, Representative Donahue, the member from Northfield. We shall now proceed to the election of an adjutant and inspector general. Pursuant to Title 20, Section 363, the General Assembly elects adjutant and inspector general each biennium. Legislative elections are governed by Title II, Section 12B, which provides, in part, a candidate for office shall, not later than 1 week preceding the election, notify the Secretary of State in writing of his or her candidacy, naming the particular office. If he or she fails so to notify the Secretary of State, his or her name shall not be printed on the ballot. No ballot may be used other than the official ballot provided by the Secretary of State. 2 names were submitted to the Secretary of State for inclusion on the official ballot. Are there any nominations for the office of Adjutant and Inspector General? The Chair recognizes the member from Burlington, Representative Stone.
Mr. President, I rise today to formally nominate Brigadier General Henry Hank Harder Jr. as the next Adjutant General of the state of Vermont. When we look for a leader for our Guard, we look for someone who doesn't just recite values, but lives them out. For over 3 decades, General Harder has embodied the Air Force core values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. But for General Harder, these aren't just slogans on a recruitment poster. They are the compass he has used to navigate a career rooted in service to this state and to this nation. General Harder is a UVM graduate who earned his commission in 1989, emerging as a distinguished graduate from the Academy of Military Science. His resume reads like a masterclass in military versatility. As a command pilot, he has logged over 3,000 military flying hours, including 330 combat hours across 4 tours in Iraq. He has led our airmen through multiple deployments, translating his experience as a fighter pilot into the strategic, disciplined leadership our Guard needs today. But General Harder's brilliance isn't limited to the cockpit. He is commanded at every level. He led the 229th Information Operations Squadron in Northfield. He served as the communications and cyber director, securing our digital frontiers. And as Vice Wing Commander of the 158th Fighter Wing, he ensured the Green Mountain Boys remained the gold standard of the Air National Guard. Most recently, as Assistant Adjutant General, he has been the primary advisor on all Air National Guard affairs. He has been responsible for the readiness and well-being of over 1,100 members. He isn't just familiar with the challenges facing our Guard, he is already solving them. Mr. President, we live in an era of rapid change and global uncertainty. Our Guard members, their families, and our Vermont communities deserve a leader who doesn't need a learning curve. They deserve someone who can step into the office and lead on day one. I know that someone is General Harder. These titles and accolades are more than just ink on a page. They are a testament to a man who has spent 36 years preparing for this exact moment. General Harder possesses the strategic vision of a commander and the heart of a Vermonter. He has protected our skies, he has led our airmen, and now he is ready to lead the entire Vermont National Guard into its next chapter. It is my distinct honor to nominate Brigadier General Hank Harder for the position of Adjutant General.
Now the member from Burlington has moved that Henry Harder Jr. be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Is there a second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the senator from Chittenden Southeast District, Senator Rahm Hinsdale.
Thank you, Mr. President. And first, if I may, I know I speak for the entire Senate when I say that most of us were unable to be here this morning for General Knight's farewell address on the state of the Guard, but we absolutely wish him well and thank him for his many, many decades of service to the state. Mr. President, we are living in a time when trust in our institutions is fragile. Across the nation, Americans are asking, who will safeguard our democratic values? Who will keep our communities safe? And who will lead the men and women who stand ready to serve with equanimity and honor? For Vermont, that answer is clear: Brigadier General Hank Harder. The Adjutant General must balance national security and state emergency response. must ensure readiness while also supporting our service members and their families, must command confidence while conveying compassion. At this moment in history, that balance requires steadiness, integrity, and deep roots in the community. Brigadier General Harder brings 36 years of service and trusted leadership in the Vermont Air National Guard, including more than 5 years as a Brigadier General, culminating in his role as Deputy Adjutant General. His professional qualifications are unquestioned, but leadership is not defined by resume alone. Hank has lived in Shelburne since 1996 with his wife, Natalie, who he calls the love of his life, and their 3 children. For nearly a decade, he has served on the Shelburne Veterans Memorial Committee, volunteering his time to care for the memorial on our town green. Each year, I know I can count on seeing him serve as one of the brick masters, installing engraved bricks honoring additional veterans and ensuring their service and sacrifice are never forgotten. That detail is not just illustrative, it's instructive. It reflects a leader who honors those who came before him and who's willing to roll up his sleeves and do the work himself. Beyond his Guard service, he serves on the Governor's Emergency Preparedness Council, the Veterans Advisory Council, the Vermont Veterans Memorial Cemetery Board, and as chair of the Vermont Veterans Fund. We have collaborated on expanding access to educational and training opportunities for service members and making the lives of military families easier in our state. His life's work reflects sustained commitment to readiness, to veterans, to Gold Star families, and to military families across Vermont. Airmen and soldiers who have served alongside him consistently speak of his compassion, approachability, and steadiness. They describe a leader who understands that readiness is built on trust, and that trust is built through showing up and doing the work. My grandfather enlisted in the Navy at 17. The cost of earning his Purple Heart in Okinawa was the loss of many friends and fellow Navymen. When he died at 95, he worried about the direction of this country. But he believed that the strength of our democracy depends on people willing to build it, patiently and persistently, brick by brick. Hank Harder leads the same way he lays those bricks on the Shelburne Green, carefully, deliberately, honoring those who came before, and focused on building something that will endure. Brigadier General Hank Harder is the right person at the right time to lead the Vermont National Guard, and I hope you will join me in supporting him for Adjutant General. Thank you.
Now the motion has been made and seconded that Henry Harder Jr. be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Are there any other nominations? Chair recognizes the member from Wolcott, Representative Noyes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colonel Brent Ziegler took the oath to defend the Constitution of the United States when he joined the National Guard 33 years ago. At just 17 years old, 3 months before graduating high school, he began his service. He learned to be a soldier from the ground up, carrying out missions long before he was responsible for directing them. He demonstrates a clear understanding of how policies, plans, and priorities are implemented by the service members with whom he serves. He knows firsthand how to balance family, education, and community, because before he ever issued an order, he followed them. That progression matters. It gives Colonel Ziegler credibility and practical understanding of how decisions made at the top affect those on the ground. He has been out in front, responding directly to national disasters, digging trenches, distributing food and water, and serving our country during times of war. There is no doubt that he will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with Vermonters whenever our communities are in crisis. As Colonel Ziegler has risen through the ranks, he has demonstrated a clear ability to lead complex organizations with accountability and clarity. He understands personal management, fiscal stewardship, and operational readiness at levels this office demands. These are not theoretical qualifications. They directly shape how effectively the Guard supports civil authorities, maintains public trust, and responsibly manages taxpayer dollars. Equally important is how Colonel Ziegler leads. He's earned respect across the ranks and organizations by bringing people together, listening carefully, and acting with purpose. He strives to ensure those around him feel protected, respected, and empowered. In a role that requires constant coordination with civil leadership, emergency management, and elected officials, this ability is essential. It ensures that the Vermont National Guard remains not only capable, but responsible and aligned with the needs of our state. Over the past months, I've had an opportunity to learn more about Colonel Ziegler's leadership priorities as Vermont's next Adjutant General and how they translate into meaningful benefits for Vermont service members, citizens, and above all, our communities. He places service members' well-being and work-life balance at the center of readiness. Having served in Iraq, he understands that soldiers and airmen who are supported in their commitment to mission and country will be ready when Vermont and our country needs them most. He is committed to fostering a culture rooted in integrity, excellence, and selfless service, one that serves as a reliable partner to civilian leadership and is worthy of public confidence. He also emphasizes institutional and civic alignment through strong state partnerships, volunteerism, and collaboration. He recognizes that the Guard's effectiveness depends on communication and shared purpose with state agencies, municipalities, and community organizations. The Adjutant General is not a trivial position. Your vote today for an individual responsible for leading the Vermont National Guard that we rely on when floods destroy our roads, when communities are cut off, and when infrastructure fails and our local capacity is exceeded. For my constituents and yours, these natural disasters are not far in our past and pose a lingering threat in the future. That is why we need proven leadership like Colonel Ziegler, who will work with our communities, our governor, and be there when it matters, because when disasters strike, our constituents look to us for answers. They look to us to ensure that government works. They expect coordination, preparedness, and leadership. Electing Colonel Ziegler as Vermont's Adjutant General is one of the most tangible ways we can meet the responsibilities of strengthening and maintaining the National Guard capabilities. For more than 3 decades, Colonel Ziegler has demonstrated the character, experience, and steady leadership that this moment requires. He understands service from the ground up, has proven his ability to lead in times of crisis, and is deeply committed to the well-being of the men and women who stand ready to protect our communities. At a time when Vermont depends on capability, coordination, and trust, his vision and integrity will ensure the continued strength and responsiveness of the Vermont National Guard. For these reasons, and with full confidence in his readiness to serve both our state and those who wear the uniform, I nominate and urge your support for Colonel Brent Ziegler as Vermont's next Adjutant General. Thank you.
Now the member from Wolcott has moved that Roger Ziegler be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Is there a second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the senator from Rutland District, Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the nomination of Colonel Roger Brent Ziegler as the Adjutant General of Vermont. Although I don't personally know Colonel Ziegler, nor have I served with him, I know many of the men and women who have, and they describe him as a consummate professional who is fully qualified for this role. That description rests not with rhetoric, but on record. I believe this to be true. The Vermont National Guard is entering a consequential period. The U.S. Army is transforming, recruiting pressures persist, and federal mission alignment is evolving. Domestic response expectations continue to grow. The next Adjutant General must understand how these forces interact with Vermont needs. Colonel Ziegler has a plan. Colonel Ziegler's service as State Operations Officer and his prior command experience reflect exceptional responsibility for operational readiness, force structure, personnel, and modernization. Those are the core elements of what this office demands. This position is not symbolic. It carries responsibility for preparedness, for stewardship of resources, and for maintaining a force that can respond when Vermont calls. The question before us is whether a nominee possesses the professional background, institutional experience to assume that responsibility. The record indicates that he does. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now the motion has been made and seconded that Roger Ziegler be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the chair declares that the nominations are closed. Accordingly, we have 2 names placed in nomination on the ballot for the office of Adjutant and Inspector General. There will be 2 names on the ballot as follows: Henry Harder Jr. and Roger Brent Ziegler. Is there any debate with respect to these nominees? If not, we shall proceed to vote. Insofar as they are applicable, the Senate rules apply. No representative or senator may be absent from this joint assembly unless sick or otherwise necessarily detained. Upon being called to order, every representative and senator shall be seated. It is the duty of each representative and senator to vote unless excused by the joint assembly or unless he or she is directly or immediately interested in the question being voted on. You are to remain seated while the tellers distribute the ballots. If a member is not seated, no ballot will be placed at the member's desk or seat. You are to remain seated during voting and while the ballots are collected by the tellers. This is the most important rule of all. There is to be no milling about in the chamber during the counting of the ballots. You are requested to remain in your seats during the counting of the ballots unless it is necessary to step out of the chamber. If you leave the chamber during the counting of the ballots, you will not be permitted to re-enter the chamber until the counting of the ballots has been completed. The tellers are now instructed to distribute the official ballots to the members of the Joint Assembly for the purpose of voting. Excuse me. Does everyone have a ballot? Does everyone have a ballot? Does everyone now have a ballot? Okay. In that case, tellers, please collect the ballots.
Joe? Thank you.
Has everyone's ballot been picked up? Anybody have an outstanding ballot? Thank you. We'll now wait for the tally. Total number of ballots cast, 170. Necessary for election, 86. Henry Harder Jr., 147. Roger Brent Ziegler, 23. Henry Harder Jr., having received a majority of the total votes cast, is hereby declared Adjutant and Inspector General for a term of 2 years, from and including the first day of March 2026 and until his successor is elected and has qualified. We shall now proceed to the election of 2 trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation, each for a term of 4 years, from and including the first day of March 2026. The chair reminds this joint assembly that nominations for the office of Vermont State Colleges Corporation trustee will be received in alphabetical order, with one nominating speech of not more than 3 minutes and not more than 2 seconding speeches of not more than 1 minute for each nominee. For the election of Vermont State Colleges Corporation trustees, we will be operating under the temporary rules set forth in JRS 36. The adoption of JRS 36 permits the joint assembly to elect the 2 trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation on a plurality vote. A plurality voting procedure simply means that the 2 candidates receiving the greater number of the total votes cast are elected. You will be instructed to vote for not more than 2 candidates at the same time and on the same ballot. Nominations for the Vermont State Colleges Corporation trustees. We shall now proceed to the election to fill the vacancies for trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any nominations for these 2 vacancies? The chair recognizes the member from Manchester, Representative James.
I rise today to nominate my dear friend and colleague, Representative Jana Brown of Richmond, to serve as a Vermont State University trustee. I first met Jana in 2017 when we were both participating in a statewide leadership training program. One focus was policy and politics, but mostly we talked about our animating values, our most important beliefs, and why we were drawn to public service. What I learned about Jana then is why I am so happy to nominate her today. Jana grew up in Castleton and then settled in Chittenden County when she returned to Vermont to work as an assistant attorney general. Too often in our policy debates, these different perspectives, a small rural town, our most populated county, are set against each other. Jana intentionally and skillfully brings them together. In 2020, Jana decided to run for the legislature. Her decision was based on a core set of leadership values: to represent and support a diverse set of constituents, to bring more voices into the conversation, to give people the resources and information they need to truly engage with our work in the State House, and to support rural education from pre-K through higher ed. Jana won her race and was appointed to the House Education Committee in January 2021. Many people in this body will remember that at that time, the Vermont State College system was on fire. The finances were shaky, student enrollment was dropping, and campus closures were an urgent threat. In her 6 years serving on House Ed since then, Jana has played a key role in our legislature's hard and necessary work to right the ship. Jana has quite literally been at the table, a thoughtful voice, and an influential vote to receive the foundational report of the Select Committee on Higher Education in 2021, to develop a multi-year transformation plan for the state university system, and to provide critical bridge funding that kept it all afloat while requiring tough choices. Today, the Vermont State University system is stable and its future looks bright. We all know that outcome was far from guaranteed. Profoundly shaped by her childhood in Castleton, Jana heard the call, spoke up, and used her spot in committee on the floor, within the State House, and in her communities to make a real difference. It's a statewide success story. I'm really proud to nominate my friend to this important role, and I hope you will join me in voting for Jana Brown for Vermont State University trustee.
Now the member from Manchester has moved that Representative Brown of Richmond be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Is there a second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the member from Cornwall, Representative Conlon.
Mr. President, it is my privilege and honor to second the nomination of my House Education colleague, a trusted advisor and friend, Representative Jana Brown, for the Vermont State College Board of Trustees. Jana grew up in the shadow of what was then Castleton State College and graduated from Fairhaven Union High School just down the road. From a young age, Jana saw firsthand the importance of having a readily available, affordable college experience, not only for her peers, but for her immediate family too. She continues to understand the importance of our state college system and the ability of Vermonters of all ages to have access to quality post-secondary education nearby where they live, whether it's at the Community College of Vermont or one of our Vermont State University campuses. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Jana Brown on the House Education Committee since 2021. Jana brings a thoughtful, lawyerly perspective to thorny issues that we wrestle with. She mixes quiet contemplation with grounded, often new perspectives that help us move our discussions forward. Jana has been a strong supporter of our state college system's restructuring and future plans as a legislator. And I can think of no better person to help continue that future path as a member of the Vermont State College's Board of Trustees than Jana Brown. Thank you.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Brown of Richmond be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any other nominations? The chair recognizes the member from St. Albans Town, Representative Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to nominate Representative David Durfee of Shaftesbury to be re-elected as a legislative trustee to the Board of Trustees for the Vermont State College System. As the chair of the Board of Trustees, I want you to know that Representative David Durfee has been one of the hardest working and most committed members of the board. He grew up in rural upstate New York, graduated from Williams College, and received an MBA from Cornell. He's been a consultant to nonprofits, cooperatives, and small businesses, and was general manager of the Wild Oats Market in Williamstown, Massachusetts. His parents were school teachers, and he has served on local school boards and served as the treasurer of the Mount Anthony Union High School District and the Southwest Vermont Supervisory District. He has also taught classes at the Community College of Vermont. Much of the work of the board is done in committees, and he has served on the Finance and Facilities Committee, the Investment Subcommittee, and served as the vice chair of the Audit Committee. Most importantly, he was asked to chair the search committee that successfully hired Chancellor Beth Mauck, and with an impending retirement of Vermont State President David Berg, he has been leading the board's search since last fall for President Berg's replacement, once again as the chair of the search committee. He is the only trustee for the southernmost counties in the state and adds geographic balance to the board while representing the concerns of the entire state. The board of the Vermont State Colleges is a real working board. We are not a board where people fly in 3 times a year to spend a weekend at dinners getting an update. We work hard listening in our committees, providing guidance and support to our administrative team members and faculty. We must be committed to the mission of the Vermont State Colleges to benefit Vermont, since we meet often during the year. David has proven himself to be a committed board member to our constituents and the colleges, attending even committee meetings where he is not assigned. He has exhibited thoughtful insights and quiet leadership, stepping up when asked to take on the time-consuming and demanding tasks such as the search committees he has chaired. I nominate Representative David Durfee for re-election to be a legislative trustee to the Vermont State College Board and urge your support for his nomination. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now the member from St. Albans Town has moved that Representative Durfee of Shaftesbury be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from Manchester, Representative Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is a pleasure for me to second the nomination of Dave Durfee. His commitment to service here in the State House as a representative and as a committee chair and back home on various boards, his quiet leadership, his sincere interest in understanding all perspectives of an issue make him the excellent candidate for trustee of Vermont State Colleges. I hereby second his nomination for re-election. Thank you.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Durfee of Shaftesbury be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any other nominations? Chair recognizes the member from Coventry, Representative Marcotte.
Mr. President, I rise today to nominate Representative John Kosenska to become one of our trustees to the state colleges. John graduated from the former Linden State College, served as a member of the Alumni Council to help recruit new students. He's a former full-time faculty member and former administrator at the Linden campus, overseeing academic support services, working with colleagues in area businesses to initiate workforce development programs, engaging in professional development with the New England Research Center for Higher Education to enhance student recruitment and retention efforts. John was also the primary academic liaison across the nursing degree programs, which helped initiate degree attainment and secure career opportunities for students in the northeastern Vermont. He also provided academic and program consultation for several colleges and universities across New England. In 2022, during the session, halfway through the session, John was appointed to fill the seat of the member from Sutton who resigned. John was then appointed to the House Commerce and Economic Development Committee. That's where I first met John. And that was a godsend. At that time, we were struggling with how to spend ARPA funds, trying to make sure that our workforce through our colleges was well targeted, creating careers for students, helping our business community. At the time, we were working on legislation that would provide scholarship and loan forgiveness opportunities for college students in targeted careers, as well as provide assistance to our state colleges. With John's expertise in higher education realm, we were able to pass legislation which has made a huge difference in the lives of Vermonters and helped put our Vermont State University in a positive direction. As you just heard, John has strong and long-lasting ties to the Vermont State University. His experience, temperament, and leadership skills make him highly qualified to become a member of the Board of Trustees. John has the abilities that will help lead our Vermont State University be the institution that will attract and teach the next generation of Vermonters. Please join me in voting for Representative John Kosenska as one of our Vermont State Trustees. Thank you.
Now the member from Coventry has moved that Representative Kosenska of Burke be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Is there a second to the nomination? Chair recognizes the member from Waterbury, Representative Wood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to second the nomination of John Kosenska for State College's trustees. When I think about the qualities needed to lead the continued evolution of our Vermont State College system, a system I graduated from, I think of someone who is open-minded, who has a sense of curiosity, who exhibits a willingness to make decisions based upon real facts, guided by the heart to do what's right for the people of Vermont. These are all qualities that John embodies, and I am proud to second his nomination and hope you join me in voting for John to serve on the Board of Trustees for the Vermont State College system.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Kosenska of Burke be elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the chair declares that the nominations are now closed. Accordingly, we have 3 names placed in nomination and on the ballot for the office of trustee of the Vermont State College Corporation as follows: Representative Brown of Richmond, Representative Durfee of Shaftesbury, Representative Kosenska of Burke. Is there any debate with respect to these nominees? If not, we shall proceed to vote. Before we pass out the ballots, let us review briefly our voting procedure for the election. I quote verbatim from the language set forth in JRS 36. All candidates for the office of trustee shall be voted upon and decided on the same ballot. Members may vote for any number of candidates up to and including the maximum number of vacancies to be filled, which in this case shall be 2. The 2 candidates receiving the most votes shall be declared elected to fill the 2 vacancies. In the event that the first ballot for the trustee vacancies results in a tie vote for a vacant position, then voting shall continue on successive ballots for the unfilled position until the vacancy has been filled by election declared of those candidates receiving the largest number of votes. As this is a vote by ballot, please remain seated and refrain from conversation throughout the balloting and tabulation. The tellers are now instructed to distribute the ballots to the members of this joint assembly for the purpose of voting for these 2 vacancies. Is there anyone who does not have a ballot? Thank you. Tellers will now collect the ballots. The chair will note that there was some milling. I determined it to be de minimis, and so we will proceed to the results of your vote. Total number of ballots cast, 170. Necessary for election, 87. Representative Brown of Richmond, 86. Representative Durfee of Shaftesbury, 87. Representative Kosenska of Burke, 110. Representative Kosenska of Burke, having received the greatest number of the total votes cast, is hereby declared duly elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation for a term of 4 years, commencing March 1st, 2026. Representative Durfee of Shaftesbury, having received the next greatest number of the total votes cast, is hereby declared duly elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation for a term of 4 years, commencing March 1st, 2026. There being no further business, I do hereby declare this joint assembly dissolved.